Joining us now on the line is Ann Coulter, best-selling author of many New York Times bestsellers, including her most recent one, Resistance is Futile. Ann, thanks for being with us here on the Howie Carr Show, as always.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking me on Wednesday.
Well, listen, here's the story on page 2 of my newspaper this morning. Accused rapist eyed by ICE. Lawrence man charged with sex assaults on girls ages 6 and 10. Would you like the update on Lawrence man from this afternoon, Ann?
I have an inkling about Lawrence man.
ICE's enforcement and removal operations, I'm reading a press release, lodged an immigration detainer order with the Essex County House of Corrections, that's Massachusetts, on Robeli Eladio de Jesus Guerrera, a.k.a. Jonathan Lopez, a citizen and national of the Dominican Republic, illegally present in the United States after he was arrested on felony child sexual assault charges. ERO, Enforcement and Removal Operations, will seek to take him into custody upon the resolution of his pending criminal charges in order to commence removal proceedings.
I know we've discussed this before, but it really can't be said often enough. It really shows that the left doesn't care about rape or sexual assault or women at all. We had to go through a month of hysteria and The Handmaid's Tale because a grown woman claimed she was groped by a drunken peer when she was, 16 years old in high school. And yet the left is perfectly willing to bring in peasant cultures with the most retrograde imaginable attitudes toward women, children, sexual relations, pets, just so they can win elections. We don't care. Yeah, a certain number of children are going to be raped. A certain number of women will be gang raped. We'll have a lot of horses. We're going to have to put some extra
drug dealers
on.
too. This guy. Let me read you his rap sheet. This guy, and again, when the story was originally written, they weren't positive who he was. Lopez was arrested last week on drug dealing charges and was arraigned and held without bail. He has also been previously charged with assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. Police reports state Lopez served 5 years in jail for trafficking a controlled substance. So he's a drug dealer. And he's in the country.
Two things. One is, those are always when you get the most detail on the stories, when the media is still hoping it will turn out to be a white male. The story of Baby Hope in New York, it took 20 years to find her. It turned out it was her cousin. She was like a 4-year-old girl. Her cousin, an illegal alien. There was a nest of illegal aliens here in New York. 20 years later, turned out to be her cousin, who was like 40-something, who raped and murdered her and dumped her by the Henry Hudson Highway. But when the first stories were being written about it, they didn't know that it was one of their precious foreigners. So we can give you all of the disgusting and horrifying details. But the second thing is, yeah, I'm not surprised. Lots of drug dealers, lots of drunk driving. But particularly, the reason I focused on sex crimes, and there are a lot in Adios America, is that the left seems to be throwing off standards on everything, how women should behave, whether a marriage should last for life or it's just a temporary arrangement, what constitutes a marriage. All kinds of pillars of society are being ripped away. But as that happens, they're going pedal to the metal, making any kind of offensive remark by a male to a female. It's the equivalent of rape. I was groped in high school. The attacks, we just went through it with Judge Kavanaugh. But these cases, these multiple cases that you read me every week, prove that they absolutely do not even care about sex crimes against women and children.
Well, listen, you know what the key, and it's hard to really focus on it when you first read the release. But this is the release that ICE just put out. ERO, meaning Enforcement and Removal Operations, will seek to take him into custody upon the resolution of his pending criminal charges in order to commence removal proceedings. And they put it in those terms, Ian, because Massachusetts, due to a ridiculous decision by our Supreme Judicial Court, has basically made the state a sanctuary state. And they hustle these people, in spite of being drug dealers or rapists, they're let go on no bail or very reduced bail. And in some cases, they're actually hustled out the back doors of the courtroom so that ICE can't pick them up. And can you imagine they're gonna have to. They might have a problem getting this guy, even though he's a drug dealer and he allegedly raped a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old. And by the way, and the 10-year-old tried to commit suicide after this. But you're right, they don't care. He's an illegal alien.
No, they don't. They don't care about their own citizens over getting in more and more illegals to vote for them. And, of course, with the Anchors babies. Hey, by the way, whatever happened to that executive order we heard about right before the election? It takes about 30 seconds to write out that executive order saying we're not recognizing anchor babies anymore, Howie. What's going on with that?
I do not know.
The media is actually right. For the first time, I'm kind of agreeing with CNN and MSNBC. Boy, President Trump, we heard a lot about that caravan before the election, but they're pouring in now, and you don't seem to be doing anything.
Well, are they letting them go in? I mean, they're not letting them come in, are they? I don't believe
Go to the Drudge Report. They're at the border pouring across, and there are no troops there.
And they're all claiming that they're gay and lesbian, so they have to be let in, even though they're all from countries south of Mexico, so they could have demanded asylum under international law. They're not due asylum 3 countries away; they're due asylum in the first country.
Wish we still had Attorney General Sessions to enforce the law and keep them out.
Well, I understand he was good on immigration, but you'll have to admit he did kind of let the horse out of the barn door on this whole Russian collusion hoax investigation.
No, that's not true. It's a stupid investigation. It's going no place, and no one cares.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's the whole point of resistance is futile. The left, if they keep yammering about Russia, even Trump could win a re-election in this environment. People are so bored with it. No, they won't go after Trump after the many, many things they could go after him completely legitimately, redeeming democratic values, like defending the working class. But alas, they don't care. They're just going to keep going mental on Russia, driving Americans crazy. That is why they can't beat him. They aren't concentrating on the many, many reasons they could be or ways they could be going after him.
What do you think is going to happen in Florida, and a state you and I both
know a lot about?
Well, I
just wrote my column on that. And it's a little tip for Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. The history of these things is, as you and I'm sure your listeners know, is once the Democratic election supervisors get at these ballots, they somehow always magically suddenly discover ballots for the Democrats. But the past history of this is for probably most of our lives, both the House and the Senate have been majority Democratic. And it's in the Constitution, it's up to the Senate, and it's up to the House to decide whether to seat whomever, even a state secretary of state, certifies as the winner of the election. There was a big case from New Hampshire where the Republican won. They recounted, the Republican won. They recounted again, the Republican won. The Democratic Senate just said we're not going to seat the Republican. Ordered New Hampshire to have a special election to revote the entire Senate election. So yeah, I think Mitch McConnell ought to say we're not accepting these recounts out of Broward County. I'll even check with Susan Collins. You could send Susan Collins and Lindsey Graham down to review the ballots that they've suddenly discovered, i.e. manufactured, in the last 2 weeks. I mean, there are clear laws on these things in Florida, as you know. Each precinct, there are 67, I guess, counties.
Right.
Yeah, and they have to report how many people voted 30 minutes after the polls closed. You don't have to give us the results, just how many people voted. 30 minutes, and if there are any updates, you have to update it every 30 minutes. All 66 counties complied except Broward? So, no, I mean, either throw out all the votes from Broward, take the election tally the night of the election, or I suppose you could have a special election in Broward County.
Yeah, and the Democrats would win by more than 12,000 votes that they need to overturn the entire election. You know that. I mean, that's the way that would work.
No, not if you have a special election. We'll have to send in UN supervisors the way things are going in Broward. But no, you can't just shut the doors and have Democrats, quote, counting votes. They're correcting votes. They're casting votes. So to recount the ballots at this point is utterly meaningless. They are recounting votes that include vast numbers of manufactured votes.
Right, and don't forget, Ann, there are also problems in our home county as well. You know, that's the other county where there are a
Something
lot of
else,
problems.
by the way, that Democrats pretend to believe in, oh, every vote must count. Well, no, if the election supervisor gets to cast 20 votes, she's just canceled out 20 legitimate votes that went the other way. That isn't having every vote count. Every vote count is you don't get to cancel my vote by creating these false ballots, as there is plenty of history and plenty of evidence.
I believe you have had some problems with the elections department down in.
Let's not talk about it. I don't know if you've heard of Antifa, but let's just drop the subject.
Okay, I understand. All right. It's in the. You can look it up if you want to find it, though. So, Ann, so what do you think? Do you think Scott is going to be seated in January?
I really think the Republicans are past the point of me even caring, or you caring, or your listeners caring. If we Republicans can engineer a Republican Senate for the next 6 weeks, a Republican House, a Republican president, a Republican governor of Florida, a Republican legislature in Florida, if they allow that election to be stolen, really, what is the point in voting Republican?
Yeah, you have a good point. It's certainly very exasperating that this is going on. Ann Coulter, thanks for being with us again today.
Good to talk to you, Howie.
All right. See you soon.